Good morning or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to our live content planning session. I'm super excited. And for those of you that are super, super smart, you may have seen that actually the lovely Maddie here has already done a session, I think 12 hours ago for the US. And now we're acclimatizing to, my homeland and then back to Europe to try and engage some of our amazing community and folk over in Europe. So Maddie, little known secret, if you haven't seen this yet, is actually also in the same clothes. Sorry, Maddie.
No worries, Elle. It is the same day for me, everybody. I'm not putting the same clothes back on the next day.
So for those who don't know me, my name's Elle, and I'm the VP of Community and Strategic Alliances at Employer Bandwagon and the Martech, and this is the wonderful Maddie, who has had the longest day, but a best day, I think. And she's going to be diving into helping you understand how you can create employee-generated content for some key calendar days in December. So this content is key for those of you in employer branding and talent acquisition who really want to tell the stories of your organization to either attract or retain talent. Now, I'm not sure where you're logging in from, so if you're over in EMEA, I would love to hear you in the comments or in the chats just saying hi and letting us know where you're dialing in from, because that's always super, super exciting for us. And, also let us know if there's any other days in your local region that perhaps we don't know about and you'd love to, see us talk about. Because key calendar days are really, great way to build awareness and also a great platform to tell your employee stories about their own commitment to a particular cause. Our jobs as storytellers is to really help advocate for people within your business who may not necessarily feel comfortable sharing their stories or, raising their voices. Even when their personal stories can help help other people find a place that will support them to be their authentic selves. So using key calendar days as a trigger really helps employees feel like they're part of something bigger than just the day-to-day. And we all need that, right? And this can lead to much bigger engagement from your target candidates as well. We've seen similar content published on a relevant day versus a non-relevant day throughout the year. And it gets up to 64% better engagement, including more thoughtful comments and shares. And you can leverage what other people are talking about. So the 2 days that Madison will be showing you today on how to gather stories from your employees, International Volunteer Day and International Day for People with Disability. Both are super important days for any organisation, but International Day for People with Disability is often underrepresented, as it genuinely requires companies to be vulnerable. And we know that's really, really hard to do. Organizations don't want to make a mistake. In fact, although 90% of companies claim to prioritize diversity, only 4% of companies consider disability when creating D&I initiatives. So many companies are in the same place when it comes to having stories to share, but I always say it doesn't matter what you've got in place. You don't need to have the best program. You don't need to have your stuff. That was very PC of me, wasn't it, Maddie? Your stuff together. You have people who are in the business who can tell their stories and, help you be vulnerable and help bring people into your organization. So I'm going to hand over to Maddie, who'll be showing you how to really plan and gather these kinds of authentic stories. And we'll be doing it all on the Martech platform. As you know, the purpose-built storytelling AI platform used just for raising your employee voices. So I'm super excited to hand you over to Maddie. And don't forget to post your questions in chat. Tell me where you are. Heckle. I don't mind a bit of heckling. So we'll put Maddie off her guard. So over to you, Maddie.
Cool. Thanks for that, Elle. The stat on the screen, firstly, I just wanted to point out from Harvard Business Review, so powerful. Diversity and inclusion in the context of the workplace is changing so much. And I think a lot of people will understand that gender diversity and cultural diversity are big priorities, but some of the other areas like disability and neurodiversity are, as you said, Elle, really underrepresented and equally as important to focus on as well. So hey everybody, I'm Madison. I head up our content marketing strategy at the Martech, and I get to work really closely with lots of global companies sharing their employees' stories to ensure that their EVPs and culture resonate with both future and existing talent. I have a bit of a tip and trick to begin with. So when you're looking to determine which events to put focus on each month, a really good rule of thumb is 3 things. If your current employees wouldn't connect with the content, if you're finding it really hard to find brand ambassadors and gather stories, or you feel people would call you out on it, then maybe don't do that one. There's differences in the kinds of content and the kinds of initiatives that companies undertake, and they are not born equal. So even when talking about the same day in a calendar, every company will interpret these really differently through the lens of the EVP, their culture, CSR focus, and their values. But I think most importantly, what they should be looking at is through their employees' experiences. So each organization has different causes that are really close to their heart, whether that's empowering women in STEM, encouraging diversity at work, supporting certain charities even. I would definitely recommend just really putting your energy into the ones you feel passionately about first. So many companies obviously value giving back to the community. And that brings us to our first key calendar day today, which is International Volunteers Day, coming up thick and fast on December 5th. Thank you, Chelsea. So no matter how formal your program is, it's worth saying that it is worth celebrating. So some companies have really well-established programs, including community outreach programs. One of the companies that I'm working with at the moment has employees who are on a rotation going out to soup kitchens, and it's really ingrained in their culture. But other companies share the same value of giving back, but do it in more of an informal way. So they're just empowering people to choose what causes they want to support. So something like September, something like Movember, rather than a specific charity. As you can see on the screen in our Martech platform, our AI has prepared content recipes that break down each key calendar day, as well as content for your always on and year-round campaigns. So I'm just going to click through to our key calendar days and take a look at International Volunteers Day. You can see this little prompter here, which is going to give you some extra information about the day. Some of the stuff you'll find in there, descriptions, theme for the year, relevant hashtags, and some examples as well, which is really cool, of existing content. So International Volunteer Day is an opportunity to acknowledge and shine a light on your employees who have dedicated their time and their efforts to altruistic and charitable acts. So with the year's theme being solidarity through volunteering, I think it's a really great time to highlight a whole team versus one employee's story. I'm going to run you through a few of the examples to show you what the different types of content you could create might look like. And Chelsea, our lovely community manager running everything in the back end, will share the questions so you can create your own content in the chat if you want to have a look at what those might look like. So the first content example is from Henkel, who brought together 4 employees to share their experience with projects that impacted the community. The benefit of having multiple employees answer the same question is that you reinforce the message and you really build trust. If employees share the article, also you reach a much wider potential audience, which is great as well. So this particular story was created using a single question. This is great for tapping into your brand ambassadors who might be a bit time poor. We all know that's a common thread challenge that everyone's facing at the moment. The question that you could ask your employees to draw out your own story that's similar to the one you see on the screen is, how are you engaging in impactful work to really make a difference to the community? And just see what that means to different people. It can be challenging as well to find enough employees for a story like this, but there's some ways that you can identify relevant employees by looking at who's taken a volunteer day or posted about it in the past and approaching them directly. A tip there, HR is normally the place to go to see who's taken advantage of that volunteer charity day. However, an easy way that you could also use is just to send out en masse an invite to your employees. So this could be over your typical company communication channel, whether you're using Slack or Teams. And there's a few things that I can show you as well in the Martech platform that do make this really easy. So I'll just navigate into the platform and show you our employee hub. This is where we manage all your brand ambassadors. If you choose Activate People, you can see all of the different options. Communication channel is the one that I just mentioned there, but we've got QR codes. So if you have field employees that don't sit behind a desk, that's a great option for them. And we also have direct invites, one-to-one sessions if you do want more of that personalized one-to-one approach. All right, the next example that I'm going to show you guys is from REA Group, who are highlighting a particular charity that their employees volunteer for. So a single employee shared their experience here with volunteering and how REA really empowered her to be involved. So this content works well in either a written or a video format. And the benefit is that you're giving potential talent a look behind the curtain at your values and some of your employee benefits too. So that's a really nice one to take a quick look at. You can use the Martech platform to create similar videos. So you can do that through, just here, I'll show you an example that we have from ESN Croatia. So the Martech platform can be used to add prompter questions and special B-roll questions. So you can layer in really dynamic, interesting footage. But this example is a really great one from ESN Croatia. So particularly if talent retention is front of mind, another option is this. So you create content intended for your people, by your people. And that really thanks them for all the causes they gave back to throughout the year. This date being in December works really nicely with the year in review celebration angle. And you can give that to multiple employees and have them give their chance to contribute. So I'll just take a moment to pause there and just check in if we do have any questions at all.
Hi, just checking in. No questions yet, but really, really love that aspect of, by your people, for your people. I think that really resonates really well with the authentic content that we're looking to create. But I'll let you know if there's anything else that comes up.
Thank you, Chelsea. Yeah, I think employer branding definitely doesn't stop in the candidate journey. It's very much around engaging your current employees as well. So whenever you have the opportunity to create content that is focused towards your internal talent, focused towards engaging them and building up their awareness for some of the programs you have, I always recommend doing that as well. All right, the second day we're going to take a look at is a little bit different. And the statistic that Elle showed earlier, I think really speaks to this. So only 4% of companies are considering disability in their D&I initiatives. This doesn't mean it's not important to your company. It very likely is, but it definitely might mean that you're still figuring out what your disability initiatives might look like. So I work with clients at all stages of figuring this out, just right at the start from when they're figuring out their recruitment process to make it more inclusive and disability friendly, all the way up to companies that have formalized initiatives in place to support candidates with a disability. So a big example of that is having a disability consultant, so reaching out to them throughout the recruitment process, making the interviews more equal. This could look like sending the questions in advance, informing the panel, closed captioning, and then just continuing that support all the way through to onboarding with stuff as simple as making sure they've got the right desk set up on their first day. So wherever it is that you fall in this journey, you can definitely join the conversation as well through employee-generated content. The first example I have for this day is from Telstra, and this is a story of an employee who was in an accident and was supported by the company to recover and continue thriving. So obviously a really big change for this individual going through this at a later stage at life. This example is quite specific, but it does show that you can highlight the experience of an existing employee in a respectful and meaningful way, which is super important on this topic. We know that candidates are 8 times more likely to connect with content when it's from an individual rather than coming from a brand. So there's not really a better way to go about this. And I definitely recommend tapping into your people and their personal stories to show what they mean and how you're supporting employees with a disability in a really practical sense. The next example is a social post from Life Without Barriers. This is a simple piece of content you can offer to all employees, and the more posts you're able to share, the more it reinforces the message. So a great one to get a lot of people involved. To bring them all together and to track engagement, you can create a simple hashtag, But remember, the aim here is to keep this casual, authentic, and for the most effective messaging, really get your people's voice to shine through. So you can create this one here by asking all your employees to answer, again, one simple question. The final example that I have is a video by Chris Rodwell from DDads. He's talking actually about being a parent of children with a disability to raise awareness for people in that situation. So this example shows potential talent, how his company is supporting him as he navigates his journey. And he talks about the alignment of his values and the company's values for forging better lives with people with a disability. So by pairing this authentic personal story with the company's values, you can create content that's going to have a really big impact on people. Chelsea, I'll just pause again there if you want before we go into the next section. If we do have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We have had just one come through. I think it's quite a good one. It's looking at when creating content, particularly around these key calendar days. You know, we've mentioned that quite a lot of people are posting on the same day. How would you recommend using one of these examples to create something that's so unique and so authentic to who you are as a brand?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Charles. I think the answer...
Sorry, Maddie, that's like a really big question. I can't wait to hear you.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I'm only repeating what I hear.
You want to go first, Elle?
No, go for it.
No worries. I was just going to say, I know that we always really emphasize the fact of being authentic, but I think the best way to stand out in that situation is be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, be a little bit real, and sometimes show that warts and all angle. A lot of the time, organizations are trying to be super perfect and super professional in their employer brand content, but I think showing the real side of your people, the funny, the weird, and the wonderful is going to be the way to stand out. So I would definitely recommend taking that step first and give people some creative freedom to have a bit of fun with it.
Absolutely. We've actually just had another question come through, which is, what's the best way to share the content if the advocate is not comfortable with sharing their story externally?
Yeah, there's lots of different distribution channels that you can share content through. So I think we speak about social media so much because it's such a big part of our marketplace and such a big place where people consume content. But if there's an individual who has a story to share and they don't have a social media presence, that definitely doesn't mean they can't be included. So you obviously have your corporate social media account, you've got your career site, you've got blogs. It can be used for internal purposes again, so posting on any of your internal channels, whether that's Slack or Teams, and then also having your team use that in a one-to-one basis. So if you're sharing content with a colleague or a potential new candidate, you can share that via email or via one-to-one messages just to make sure that it's still being shared and people are getting access to that story.
Yeah, absolutely love that. That's all the questions that I have so far.
Wonderful. So I'm just going to quickly show you guys how easy it is to create your own story with a unique spin on it through the Martech platform. So we'll come back to our content recipes. And you can click into the story that you like. So there's this option here, which is really handy. It actually pops the original source of the content out. So if you're checking out a couple of content recipes, you can take a read through. And if you do determine this is something that you'd like to emulate or draw inspiration from, come back to the platform and you can click the Create Story button. Go through and select your content format. It will pull out a title from scanning that piece of content and find something similar. And then it will also generate some questions using AI that you can choose. Pick the ones that resonate with you the most. You want the ones that you think your advocates are going to enjoy answering, and just allocate that to them via the platform like that. So super simple, click submit, and it's away to your brand ambassador. You can also get ahead of content planning in advance. This is something really handy that I think is great to show. This is our content planner. So when you're mapping your key calendar days or content as it relates to some campaigns, you have the opportunity to tag it with different packages so you can color code. Again, this is really handy when you have regional teams and global teams. When you've got lots of different campaigns running in tandem, you can use this calendar to plan and share internally and have everyone be abreast of what's upcoming from a content perspective. Alrighty. Unless we have any more questions, I think that's it for what I had to show you guys today. I hope you found that helpful. If we have no other questions, I'll pass it back to Elle to wrap us up.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maddie. I'm going to let Chelsea. I actually had a couple of people text me, which is quite amusing, with some questions. But I'll hand over to Chelsea so I sort of wrap some of this up, see if there's any more coming through. I think, you know, for me, there's a few key takeaways, and I think we said right at the beginning, you know, certainly a person with disability. There's a fear, I think, for organisations that if they don't do this right, they can come across as disingenuous and totally have a negative impact, the opposite impact that they're trying to create. So I think if we, double down on the fact that if you're authentic in all the content you create, at the end of the day, authenticity always wins. And that, I think you said that, Maddie, it's like my new catchphrase, for people, by your people. I changed that slightly to for people generally, but by people. But I love that. It's that connectivity to the story, and we're all living through that at the moment. And it's really what people value. So if you can encourage your employees and enable them to contribute with confidence and ease, I think that's the key. The confidence to have their voice and ease of really doing it. Then empowering people is just super epic. And if you're just starting out, I think, as you're saying, I love your description of, the journey that organizations are on, whether they're the initiatives or being able to tell the stories. So if you're really starting out, I think, yes, 100%, look at the stats, leverage what already exists. If there's a day, don't be afraid. If you're only posting one story or two stories, if they're real, that's perfect. You don't have to be 100% together. Like nobody, seriously, no matter what people tell you, and trust us, we know, like not very few places have it 100% together. You really just need to use your best people and their best stories. One true, powerful, authentic story is better than 10 kind of, somewhat contrived stories. Thank you.
Absolutely, Elle. And I think as well, to add to your point there, it's about opening up the conversation. It doesn't necessarily need to be content that's got it all figured out, but having these conversations, particularly around that key calendar day that is underrepresented, is a great step forward. So I think that's really important to share.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been like super valuable. I think Chelsea's wandered off, so I'm not sure if she's gone to look at some questions, but
there's no other questions, but I just
wanted to bring you back.
No, that's okay. I was going to say I think it works really well talking about that authentic voice. Even if everybody's asked the same question, everybody's going to answer so differently. So I think it's really true that you can pull some really authentic pieces just by acknowledging a particular day.
Yeah, and I love the idea of being able to take there's so much noise. I love being able to take just a phone and video and taking some snapshots, or we do it, like I think we did. I don't think we did it this year, but we did September last year as a business, and we did it globally actually as well. So there's some really cool things you can do in different regions, and took photos of ourselves like out on a morning walks, like for like the volunteering day, you're saying things like that, or when just having so many organizations just have a day off, and certainly that disability one as well, I think, has really shifted with remote work. So I think, really enabling people to just in an instant say, you know what, I think people would want to see this and see something different is, going to be game changing for people who think they cannot have the job they want because they may be at a disadvantage. And I think we have a responsibility as organizations to really empower those voices, to help people step up with confidence as well, to apply for more roles. And I think there's an undervalue of the power that organizations and employee voices can have in giving potential talent that confidence to apply or talk to an organization. So for me, that's, what I certainly would love people to take from this, is that there is a responsibility to empower people, not just within the organization, but externally, to feel that there's an environment that they can apply for a role. And I think that would be game changing for so many bright, talented, people out there who don't think they can do something.
Absolutely. Well said.
Well, This has been amazing. Lovely to see. And I'm just going to wave at Kelly. I haven't spoken to you in a while, Kelly, who's saying morning from London. Great to have everyone on board, and look forward to catching up as always, with familiar faces. As always, reach out to Maddie or myself or Chelsea, now that you've seen the face, who's our lovely community manager. We're going to bring her in a bit more. If you have any questions or want to see more, you know where we are. Always reach out. And thank you again for your words of wisdom, Maddie.
Thank you, Elle. Thanks for having me, guys. Bye.
Bye.